once we all get Google glasses and whatever, it's like everything's going to be streamed.
It's not going to be glass. It's just going to be eyes. You have Google eyes. So
googly eyes.
The googly eyes. But see, yeah, you have to. One of them has to be like a googly eye. So it's like you have one normal one, the other one's just like all over the place.
Hello and welcome to episode 101 of the Game Brew Podcast, the bi-weekly video game podcast where we sip delicious beers, discuss video games, and since it's episode 101, we're starting all over again. I am your host, Ian Richard, and today I am joined by Chris Wright.
Where's my funny name?
Dan Ratz.
Your name's already a funny name.
Alex Ryder. And Allison Van Dievender.
I don't know what to do with my hands because we don't have funny names.
Heads up, everybody.
On the first half of the show, we'll discuss the similarities and differences between the rise of streaming in gaming and the rise of streaming in music. And in the second half, we'll do some vault experiments in games. But first, it's time for a beer. Chris, what are we drinking this week?
We're drinking Sierra Nevada Torpedo Extra IPA.
So does it really like glitter and like rose gold stuff?
It likes to create a lot of drama. It generally, just
so,
like...
It took me a second. Yeah, it's
so
pretty extra. Starbucks and, it's just very extra.
Just needs everything to be about it, I think is the problem, really.
Yeah.
It's like you invite it to a night out and it's just like, let me talk about me for 3 hours.
Everyone's favorite date.
So the reasoning we chose this was because, episode 101, Vault 101, bombs. So this was the closest we could get to bombs.
To drinking a bomb?
To drinking a bomb.
Well, not drinking bombs, but a bomb-themed beer. So it was our...
torpedo. I get it.
It was our attempt. An attempt was made.
Was made and succeeded. We all did, finally, for the first time in like 80
for
episodes.
For the first time in forever.
That's all we can sing.
We can't sing
that.
It's just funny because our outside is ironically frozen.
It is pretty frozen out here. Yeah.
Okay, but it's back to the beer.
Actually, I think, Chris, it's frozen there because here it's frozen too.
Oh my God.
Into the
you guys, you stop with the frozen quote.
We have to talk about something else here.
Welcome to the Disney podcast where we're going to get sued.
You stop with the frozen quotes, or Elsa.
Listen, I already did an Elsa joke.
He already did.
Oh, did you?
Wait, I've got another one that maybe.
Jesus.
Okay.
I want to off this podcast.
All right, the beer. It's an extra IPA. The hop is apparent.
It's very
but
bitter.
You know what? It's also it also manages not to be super heavy. And I think that's the problem with IPAs that I complain about is when you combine the hoppiness with a really heavy beer, it feels overwhelming. This feels like it's got a tart, sort of crunchy mouth sort of feel. Yeah.
I think that it's partly because this is heavily dry hopped, and so it's more taste.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot more flavor.
When you are brewing the beer with the hops before the dry hopping, but as it's fermenting and you're dry hopping, then I think it tends to get a little more bitter, more heavy with the heavy hoppage earlier in the process. But yeah, I like the heavy floral taste that you get from these.
I think it's pretty one-dimensional.
Yeah,
in my opinion, it's that's my opinion, not yours. and here's why.
And here's why. Go ahead. Yes.
I think it doesn't have a ton of malt flavor. I think it's mostly just it's just straight hops.
Yeah,
I put it in the same basket as something from Stone. It's just aggressively hopped, and there's not much else to it other than that to me.
Which,
there's other Sierra Nevada beers I like better.
I actually think the hoppiness has a certain, I wouldn't call it fruitiness behind it, but there's a sweetness behind it that's pleasant.
For me, I traditionally have hated IPAs. And so I stopped drinking these for a while, and so I think I haven't had an IPA like a traditional IPA in a long time, and it's very nice. It's refreshing.
It is kind of it's kind of a nice reset because there's a lot of IPAs with a bunch of random shit in it, which is fine too.
Right.
But this is like they're like, you want an IPA? We made the most IPAs of IPAs you could possibly IPA. Yo, dog, we heard you like IPAs, so we put an IPA in your IPA.
Yes, it is 2021, and yes, we are still making Pimp My Ride jokes.
Yo, you know
It's
how much,
okay.
You know how much taxes those people had to pay on those cars? Like so much.
That's what Dan walks away from that show with.
Just like, yeah, you got 13 TVs in your Buick, but man, that's a lot of taxes.
All right, so it is a beer and gaming podcast, so let's dig into the gaming part of that. Dan, have you've been playing some fun stuff with Allison this week, and I want to hear about it.
Yeah, Allison, what were we playing?
That's me.
That's you.
Dream Daddy.
Dream.
Did you forget?
I'ma be your dream and you're my dream.
Yeah, we could probably play that song actually.
That song would be okay. Yo, the
Yeah.
theme song to Dream Daddy is just freaking catchy
It's a
as hell.
bop.
Oh,
It
really?
slaps.
It's like the same line on repeat. Let me be clear, but
But it
it'll
just
get
gets
caught
you.
in your head.
It just gets you going. Like ready to
Alright.
date those dads.
Yeah, no, we've played that for 2 weeks now.
We're
Every
not
Friday. I don't know. We haven't discussed if we're doing it this Friday again or what we're doing,
Yeah.
but I have had so much fun with this game, and it is I don't know about you, Dan. It's way better than I thought it was.
I assumed it was going to be more like a lot of the other, like sort of like this is more gamey than a lot of dating simulators that I've played. Like other ones, it's like or that you've played and I've watched you play, or you have made me play. Because it's more about like you get to choose like, oh, I'm going to go on a date with this daddy, or I'm going to talk to this person, or I'm going to do this with this person and talk about these things.
Yeah, a lot of times you do it like in a very roundabout way. Like it depends on what locations you go to, and you have to assume that the one you want is going to be at somewhere. And this one's like really straightforward, and you get to just pick the dads you want to date. And go on a date with. And the mini games that pop up that we've had so far have been really interesting. That's something visual novels don't normally do.
Yeah, there was a Pokemon one, right? And
there was a Pokemon battle with your daughters. That was amazing.
That's so fun.
And we had mini golf, which surprised me. I wasn't ready for it. And there's no instruction. You just kind of do it.
Yeah. Listen, on the front 9, you did great. On the back 9 is where we fell down.
Yeah. And I definitely made like this hilarious clipped shot that's in the Game Brew video clips. If anyone wants to see it, it's pretty good. Although turn your volume down because I cackle because I have no idea how I made this shot.
Yeah, it was physically impossible, but somehow she still did it.
I saw this. Yes, okay, I gotta go watch it. Got it.
Yeah, but anyway, it's been a real blast. I love having Dan around for these things because he makes everything more fun.
There's
so yeah, it's been a good time.
Also, so many voices I get to do whenever it's on there.
Dan's trying to teach me how to do a Scottish accent. It's not working out.
It's not that hard. It's just you got
Spoiler alert.
Just got to say
It's
great day, and then you're good to go.
I can't do that thing with the R.
Great.
Great.
But you can but you can roll it. You can go like with your R's.
I can do that. That I'm really good at. But if I have to do it just once, nah, can't do it. Comes out as 15. But yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun.
That's cool. Would you recommend it to other people who love dating sims?
Yeah, I think it's different. Yeah. It's different. First off, I did not come into it knowing I was going to be dating other dads.
Yeah, we thought we were like going to be choosing a daddy. Like
right.
You were a girl and you were like, oh, I have to pick a new daddy or something like that.
Oh.
Or I thought like, daddies, like I was going for an older man. Yeah. I thought that was like kind of the idea. Did not understand that I was a dad dating a dad, which made this game 1,000 times better for me. Like the fact that it's just casually an LGBTQ game and they're not like screaming it, I thought was pretty cool, like just to happen upon it. And so far, everything's amazing. I love it. I love it a lot.
That's awesome. Chris, you were also playing a dating sim this past week, is that right?
I did, and I finished it.
Okay. Wow.
Insert noise here. It's the MAGfest dating sim.
The MAGfest dating sim.
The MAGfest dating sim. So instead of being able to go to MAGfest, I did the MAGfest dating sim with
I
Katie.
have to do this.
I can hypothesize how this dating sim would work, but I don't think it would be responsible for me to repeat on the air.
it's the goal of it is for you to find someone to hold hands with.
Oh,
That's so cute.
So like basically like you can do like pretty much the entire game in one run. Like you can find all the endings basically, because it basically like teleports you back to the beginning and says, anyways, enough of that, gotta go find someone to hold hands with. Because you need to be holding hands to be able to get into the concert to see the Proto Men.
Oh.
Okay.
So
And actually, it's a combination of really cool things because they make it so you can go to the merch area and they have like a lot of the vendors on a Google spreadsheet that you can actually go to those merch websites.
Oh, that's cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then like in the jam space, they have a bunch of tracks from a bunch of the different bands that play at MAGfest usually, and like places to support them too. So it's in combination a dating sim with like a full story, and it's a lot longer than I expected it to be. It's about like an hour or two, but longer than I expected it.
Right.
But also, it's really great that it's supporting people that usually rely on that as a source of income.
Okay, that's cool. That's what I was going to ask, right? So MAGfest being the music and gaming festival that happens in Baltimore Harbor every year.
DC.
No, not in Baltimore Harbor, in DC.
DC.
Excuse me. Yeah, which obviously, because of COVID complications, could not happen. This is really cool. And was there a publisher from inside MAGfest that put this together? Or like, how did it come to be?
So, you know the Party Wizards?
Yes.
No.
I do.
So they were the hosts of the couple Guinness Book of World Records things.
Oh, got
that
it.
have been
Okay,
there.
yeah.
So the Party Wizards. They're the brothers cosplay, and they were the main developers for it.
Very
Wow.
That's
So it was a small thing, and there's like a ton of MAGfest inside jokes. There's the cult of Danny DeVito and stuff like that.
Oh, is the Colossus roar in there?
They have background sounds from I guess like a recording of MAGfest, and you can hear just constantly Colossus. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
I
I'll
have
leave
to do this.
Yeah, no, it's a ton of fun. I put a link in our chat to where it is, but we can put that and share that as well.
That's awesome.
With the
You've been
episode.
doing anything else this week? This past couple weeks?
Yeah, I've been pretty busy. I'll talk about, I guess. So
Yeah, maybe.
on table.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say go. That's what I'm excited about. Go. You're good.
So on Tabletop Simulator, you can pretty much simulate any game. So I've been trying to figure out a way to do Warhammer 40K, and there's like a whole support system for it. So like it was really easy to set up. I had to do some tweaking to get like armies built in it, but like a lot of the stuff is just available, which is really great. And actually, I played a game yesterday with Tyler. He played his first game of Warhammer with me.
Nice.
It took a little while, but it was fun. It's not quite as fun as doing it on the tabletop, but still a good alternative.
Speaking of space murders, right? Warhammer 40K, space
Sure.
murders. I have been getting back into Elite Dangerous to try to prep for Frontiers. So
It's such a terrible name.
Elite Dangerous is a horrible name for a game. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is a really bad name for a game, but there's nothing to be done about it because the title's been around since the NES. So it is what it is. For anybody who's not in the know, Elite Dangerous is like this giant space fighting, trading, mining simulator that tries to like accurately give you the scale of the Milky Way galaxy. So when you're flying from star system to star system, it's like at actual scale, and it takes forever to get out to the ends of it. And then once you're there, the stars really far apart and hard to get to. And it's also
You can run out of fuel and
you can run out of fuel. Someone shot out my cockpit the other day, and I was trying to land back in my home station without any heads-up display, which is really exciting.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's really neat for sort of those stories you get from just playing it. It like develops its own stories. It's not really great at providing a framework that is stories. Like it's not like The Witcher 3 where there's like really good in-depth quests that you can go do and experience. It's that the things that happen then turn into the stories about the games. But the exciting thing is that they're coming out with an update in February, I think mid-February-ish, where for the first time you'll actually be able to get out on foot and explore planets and like shoot first-person style at outposts and things like that, and do that kind of mission. So I'm really excited for that. The game took a huge leap forward with Horizons, which was the last big update, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, where you could actually exit your ship in like an ATV and drive around on planets, and that made it way cooler. So this next iteration, I'm really excited for. Basically, if you're looking for something that's Star Citizen but actually exists, go play Elite Dangerous.
Yeah, I might have to get back into that then.
Nice.
Yeah, my brother and I have been having a really good time getting into it. I will say it's like...
Are you space trucking?
Yeah, space trucking. I will say it's very obtuse. It is not any time that something like is easy or forthright happens, we're like, oh my god, it made sense, because nothing in this game makes sense. You need a YouTube video to like do everything, and nothing is easy. But it is really rewarding if you're willing to spend the time to get into it. So if y'all wanna do some pilot stuff, hit me up. I would love to hang. And then finishing it out, Alex, you have been playing a little bit of Battlefront 2, is that right?
Yeah, just a little bit. I think I jumped on a couple rounds with Chris and Dan.
Yeah. Is it still wet in your whistle?
Huh?
Is it still wet in your whistle?
Yeah, I think it's fun. I love all things Star Wars.
Yes, give in to your Star Wars.
Yeah.
Do it.
Do it.
Complete.
I think the first night that I played, I was very overwhelmed. Because going from something like a Warzone into Battlefront is very different pace of gameplay.
Oh yeah.
It is just mass chaos. Everyone is at the same place at the same time,
exploding,
and there's just
lasers.
Explosions and lasers.
Freaking Yoda.
And so it's a mess.
Yoda is a jerk in that game.
Dude, he just wrecks your face.
But I started messing around with playing as the different characters and kind of learning what their skills were and when to use them, and so I have a little better grasp of it now. So it's very entertaining and fun.
And we also know that he plays best as the little Ewok character.
Yes,
dude. Yes,
because he's so short that no one sees him, and he's got that auto aim. His arrow is like auto aim, which
like
is pretty sweet. So it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but you can just hide and shoot your little arrow at people. It's great.
Like being
it's awesome.
Oddjob.
Or Short Hanzo in Overwatch.
Short Hanzo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who is Short Hanzo?
It's like normal Hanzo, but short and covered in hair.
Hashtag rejected Overwatch design.
Allison just shakes her head vehemently.
Oh my god, that's fabulous. Okay, so Alex, the reason that I wanted you to talk about your game last is because I thought it would be a nice segue into our first topic, which of course is whether or not the rise of streaming and games is going to have the same effect on the game industry as the rise of streaming and music had on the music industry. And you're probably I was going to say cast member, but that sounded weird for a second. Like we were in like a reality show. You're probably the contributing podcaster who knows
this
the most.
Is a reality show. We've been here the whole time. This
is so meta.
My Truman Show moment.
Yeah, this is your Truman Show moment. It's raining just on you.
No, but you're probably the person on the podcast with the most expertise in the music industry, and this is kind of a topic that came up because of you. So all that being said, like if you had to say like what is your hope for what game streaming is for the game industry, and what is your fear? What are those two things? Like, what do you think is the best possible scenario, and what's the worst possible scenario in terms of streaming for games?
Well, in my research before this episode, I think I found a quote from Phil Spencer, who is
who's that? Just kidding.
Yeah, who's Phil Spencer? Who's that guy?
But he was talking about Game Pass and how he is kind of structuring Game Pass to work, and how they are strategically kind of placing themselves in this position to be a front runner for how streaming is going to develop over the next couple of years. And
you notice how quickly they backpedaled from their price increase when people were like, nah. And he was like, okay.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. He's like, oh, sorry about that. Sorry, didn't mean it. It was a joke. It was a joke.
Now, I think part of it is that because Microsoft is so established and they have such Microsoft is not going anywhere. No matter how bad their console does, like Microsoft is still going to be a thing. And so I feel that they have a little more ability to take those risks to they can kind of push things into the direction that they want to. Mm-hmm. That I think that they are setting themselves up to benefit game developers, benefit themselves, and benefit the end user, the players as well.
That sounds like a very optimistic statement from someone in the music industry.
Yeah, well, so I mean, his quote that he said is, in certain cases, they'll pay for the full production cost of the game. Then that developer will get all of the retail opportunities of the top Game Pass. Then they can go sell it on PlayStation or Steam and Xbox, and they already have that full game to hand them. And then sometimes the developers are already done with the games, and in that case, they will negotiate if that game is going to have an upfront fee or if they want to take money as the Game Pass goes on. So it's interesting because the people that are leading the streaming are, according to this, are willing to work with the game developers in order to make the best scenario for everyone involved. And I see that on the music industry side of things, that is the complete opposite of what is happening. Streaming services are trying to make money for themselves, and then anyone else that benefits is in that top tier echelon,
like large corporate megastars. Taylor Swift,
they're
Kanye.
the major labels. They're the major labels. They already own a ridiculous amount of the market share, and they're continuing to. And there isn't that kind of even distribution of, hey, my song was listened to 10,000 times, but you're not even making like $1.
So if I could like tie all that up in a bow, you're saying that the dream, the hope is that developers actually usher in a new era of creativity because more developers have access to funding to make the games that they want to make or sell the games that they want to sell. But the fear on the other side of that is that it could go the other direction and really be a market that disincentivizes creativity and instead leans on like the Halos, the Forzas, away from smaller titles.
I think that there's also that balance of how do you distribute those funds? So you pay $20 a month for a service. It's like, what is the price breakdown of that? Is your money going
right.
to Xbox for the hosting? Is your money going to the developer who actually made that game? Is the money that you're putting in going to games that you don't even play?
Sure.
And I think that's what we see with Spotify, with all of the other streaming music sites, Apple Music, is that you are giving your money as a subscription, but that money is not going to necessarily the music that you are listening to.
Got it.
And what Xbox Game Pass is saying is that they're hoping that they're going to develop a system where the money is funneled to the people where the games are being played. That money is going to be distributed to them, which I think it's interesting. And the thing that's shocking to me is that we have the technology to statistically track these things. Like, we know what games are played and how long they're played for. We know what music is being listened to, how many times it's being listened to, by what IP address. And we have all of these statistical capabilities, but on the music side of things, the pie is not being evenly distributed.
Right.
And so I'm hopeful that with the quotes and with the little bit of research I did before this, that the gaming world is kind of thinking of a more holistic approach to that.
I think it's kind of a value proposition thing for maybe why people are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
When you're playing a game, generally, like if it's a $60 game, you're probably going to get, let's say that you're going to get 60 hours from it, like, so you're paying $1 an hour basically to play this game.
Yeah.
It's even a different thing with streaming. With music, you're going to listen to that. You might listen to that album repeatedly, but it's only going to be new once. You're going to get through all of the content in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So the value proposition, I guess in a way, the value of it as far as the entertainment it gives you for a certain amount of time feels less in music than it does in like potentially a video game.
I wonder,
and obviously that's you know, games are different lengths, but
yeah. That's actually a really interesting point, because then I wonder, like, maybe it's that we're actually better, and maybe this is just the podcast, and maybe it has more to do with the industry, but I wonder if that means actually that we're better at consuming games and thinking about them critically than we are at consuming music and thinking about it critically, right? Like, we would never, like, Chris, you love Wagnerian operas. Let's just say that for...
Sure, I can get down with Flight of the Valkyries.
That's what I'm saying. But you don't necessarily like listen to one and then you're like, okay, that was nice. It's only new once, right? Like, I play Rocket League all the time. It's not new to me, but I'm discovering new things about it. The same could be said for really high quality music. When we listen to it over and over again, or we listen to it in different ways, in different contexts, by different artists, we're discovering new things about that art. Its value doesn't necessarily diminish just because it's not an hour long, right? And so therefore I'm not sure that I buy your cost benefit analysis.
I mean, I think it's also kind of interesting. I'm going to kind of refute your point a little bit here, Ian, just because the way that with streaming platforms and music, it isn't necessarily about what you can get from the music. It's still about the volume of people that listen to it and where that money is going, like from the breakdown. Like Alex talked about the model that like Spotify uses for their stuff, which is the pro rata model, or maybe he didn't. I read the same articles that Alex did because he sent them to me, which is basically, if you imagine like there's 100, like whenever people listen to music, it takes all of the music that people listen to within a certain amount of time, and it breaks it down and it has one set of money that it gives out to all of these different types of all the different artists. Now, someone who listens to Ariana Grande a whole bunch, there's going to be a lot of people listening to Ariana Grande, and all that money goes to like the record label that Ariana Grande is a part of, and vice versa, all the other artists under that same record label. Whereas Joey Bag of Donuts, the super food review band, like who you listen to 12 times, you might feel like you're listening to it a lot. You listen to 12 times every Friday, but that chunk of that like money is significantly smaller. That goes like, say it's $100, like the record label would get like 80 of that dollars because of all the different artists that are on there. And then that one band would get like 12 cents because in relation to all of the music that's listened to on that platform, they wouldn't do it. So even though it might be a better band, or it might be like a better sort of music that can be critically analyzed or listened to and be like, oh, I get more out of this, there aren't enough listens for it to garner any sort of profit.
And I think that's kind of at least the worry I have with streaming services in the future, right? Where I'm always thinking about the indie gamers, and I'm always worried that, like, okay, so Medium released on Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah.
And I'm going to play it. I'm going to play the shit out of it. And I feel like a lot of people are. And it's like, how many indie games are getting ignored for that, you know, AAA game that's on there? And then will the AAA games just make bank on this service while the indie games are still just barely afloat if they use this service? I don't know. I think about those things, and I know that in situations like this, there is no perfect way to peanut butter this money across that's coming in from these subscription services to take care of the little guy.
Right.
And that's what I always fear is, like, are we not supporting the people? Like, we always talk about indie games and how we want to support them, right? Like, and that's always something that I like grabbing an indie game and playing it over a AAA a lot, just because I know I'm supporting that smaller company. And it's like, I fear this will kind of be the death of a lot of those.
I wonder, in a marketplace where we have these big, like these distributive giants, right? Steam, Xbox, Epic is getting in there and doing things, PlayStation, right? Like, we have these big tents that things kind of have to live under. I think at any marketplace like that, and Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, the individual people who are making those games are very likely to see less profit simply because there is an intermediary there, right? If you go to the developer's website and buy the video game, more of that profit is going to the developer. Whereas if you buy it on a platform, necessarily that platform is taking a chunk of the money because of the distributive service that you're using. It's almost like we're paying for a service that we don't necessarily need, and the same is kind of true for streaming music.
And that's kind of my biggest thing with these streaming services right now, why I'm not interested in them really, is because I think we've had this conversation. It's like we get a free game on Epic, but we have to go into the Origin store, which then opens the BattleNet, which then opens the Steam in order to play the game. And then we have to sign away our third liver in order to get this game.
How many livers do you have?
3. Don't you all have 3 livers?
Well,
Do you
I
know?
only have 2.
That's a perfectly normal human thing. I don't know what you're
I don't have
talking
any
about then.
livers.
Continue,
I mean, I
Alex.
have the regular human amount of
Like
livers.
he's got 3 livers.
I think that, Ian, it's also, that's very true when it comes to music as well. It's like I try and go to the band's website and buy it from them. The only time I will go to like Amazon or something to like buy a CD or an album of a band is when they're like, hey, look, this is the only place that we have our stuff up for sale.
And that's like especially true of like small bands. I will always and always go and support them with merch or buying their CD when I don't even have a place to play CDs anymore. I don't
That's
care.
true.
Like
My car has a CD player. It doesn't work. So
I want to make sure I have that physical item because I know it's supporting them. Even though I may be streaming their stuff on Spotify, I know they're not getting money on Spotify. So I try to support them in whatever way I think I can. So it's not that I don't use streaming services because I find them very handy. It's that I just want to make sure I'm still giving them money when I know it's not coming to them otherwise.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
That's what I was going to say is, whenever I was able to go to concerts before,
in the before
if I
time.
really, if I didn't know the band, I would listen to them. And if I liked them, I'd, go buy their CD or go buy a t-shirt or go buy something just because that's the best way to support them. Agreed there. And that's also something that isn't really available as much with game developers, meaning like you can't go to a concert to see a game developer, like, so that's a stream of revenue that's not available to the gaming community that there is in the music community.
Yeah.
So it's, I think that might also account for some of the discrepancy.
I also wonder, excuse me, if the role of piracy here is also pretty important. Like, we have to remember that this whole music streaming thing sort of was born out of Napster and LimeWire being a service where you could literally go steal music off the internet with no repercussions and just then have it. Right? And essentially what this did is drive the value of music down. You can do the same thing with video games, and it's important to recognize that small developers often probably have their video games pirated, and someone like Steam says like, hey, actually, we're a really good option because we're going to make sure that there's like online only modes, whatever, where you have to be logged into this secure service in order to boot your software, making it more secure. So the money we take is providing the service of this game can't be pirated.
I think that's hard. Being in a field where I work with technology all the time, one of the things I say is that the bad guys are really smart. So saying that, yes, it's all born kind of out of that piracy sort of thing, and that's kind of what I mean. You want to talk about pirates? Like that's pirates were initially a good guy, and then they turned into a bad guy, and then you had to take on the things that the bad guys did in order to fight the bad guys. So that's kind of what, like, whenever I know that's weird thinking,
like the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Yeah,
I got it
exactly. Yeah, where it's like where in order to kind of reduce the amount of piracy, it's like, oh, I can download music here for free. These other companies came and said, oh, well, we can take a portion if you pay us a little bit of money. Then you can listen to all these things for free and you don't have to worry about downloading it and also getting crazy porn viruses on your computer.
Wow, crazy porn viruses somehow made it into this conversation.
I try and work them in every single one.
But I think that the place that streaming games is coming from is how do we get more people to play games, though? And so because music is coming at it from this defensive standpoint of the major labels being like, hey, how are we going to keep making our billions of dollars every year? I think that the video game industry is approaching it as, hey, we just want more people to play video games.
How do we make that happen?
Yeah.
Which
is kind of a beautiful thing. And you would wish that music would take the same approach.
I think Alex is right in that I don't think, and again, I could be wrong, gaming piracy doesn't come into play at least newsworthy enough like music piracy did. So I don't feel like it's quite as prevalent, mostly because of all the piracy, blocking, and additives that games have now. But I do believe that indie gamers are the only ones who are really impacted by that, again, because they don't have the money to support the kind of anti-piracy bits as the big companies do. So I don't think it's I don't think it's that much of a necessity into streaming like the music market was. I think it's different.
You wouldn't download a car.
I damn straight would.
Yeah, I would.
Sorry.
I would totally do that.
Well, if you want to wait, how do I
It's a halftime. We're
Ian,
halftime.
it's okay. We're halfway through. Get a little tired. We're just gonna wrap it up. Just try and breathe. You can do it.
All right, that's it for the first half of the show. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about vault experiments in games. Stick with us. Thanks, Satan, for the pep talk.
Hey, that's what I'm here for, buddy. That's what I get paid the Diablo bucks.
Welcome back to the second half of the Game Brew Podcast, episode 101. We're drinking, is it Torpedo?
Torpedo.
Torpedo.
You drink it at Torpedo.
Torpedo.
Drinking at Torpedo.
Yeah, what that dude do?
Sierra Nevada.
You guys are just forgetting letters that exist in that word?
No, it's Torpedo Extripia.
It's
Extripia.
the second half, so we're worse at reading than we were during the first half.
Canonically,
that's how the second half works.
that is true.
I still like this beer. I still like this as a straight up IPA. Like I don't even think they need to call it an extra IPA. I think the only thing that's extra about this beer is the name.
They just should have called it extra or Torpedo IPA.
Yes, honestly, that's what I think.
I disagree.
It is a lot bitier than a lot of
enjoy
just
this.
standard IPAs, though.
I know, but I feel like IPAs lately have been so like moderated by the like juicy IPA, West Coast IPA, like
That's actually a New England IPA.
right, exactly. But like all of those things are a kind of IPA that doesn't really scream IPA to me. Whereas this is for sure an IPA.
Sure.
I'm a big fan
But-
that on the cap it tells you have to use a bottle opener, because I was just going to use my teeth.
I think that, well, I feel like this is one of the like original IPAs that we could get in the US. I think it's been around for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong there, but
It has the finest quality and the purest ingredients.
There you go.
And Dan, you
It's
joke
a
about
choice
that.
owned, operated, and argued over business.
And Dan, you joke about
I also
that
find
bottle
that fun.
opener use
I like that
thing,
I like
but
that too. You know what else was like a family?
The Brady Bunch.
They were actually a family.
Oh,
So
the Partridge Family.
kinda, but the Partridge Family also actually a family.
Oh,
But Vault 101 was kind of like a family. So here's a fun fact about Vault 101. The original and underlying purpose of Vault 101 was to never open, so that like they could do a time study of a vault that never opened and how the role of the overseer and like inbreeding functioned.
ooh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's dark.
So it is
That's some
about
dark
family.
stuff right there.
Unfortunately,
It is about family. Everyone is family in Vault 101, Dad.
just like in West Virginia.
no, that's a different vault.
Oh, sorry.
That's
That's
76.
76. You're right. That's Vault 76.
And so in honor of Vault 101, we thought we would talk about some other experiments that we've done in games. And I want to start off with some experiments that I feel like many people have experienced in games, right? So part of games is like this exploration of environments, but in the same way we explore mechanics in games, and we call this like experimenting, right? That's what experimenting is. And I always love the experiment in games of like, is there swimming in this game, especially before the internet? Because you just never know. Like sometimes you're a fully dressed army man and you jump into the water and it's fine. And other times you're a fully dressed army man and you jump into the water and it is instant death. And it's just hilarious the way that's handled.
And running at walls to see if they're invisible walls or not, or like how fences are going to react. And
yeah,
it's always it's fun learning the rules of the environment you're in.
Yeah,
I think that one of the things that spurred on this idea of creatively playing games, I just thought about it now, comes from Mario.
Go on.
From trying to find the hidden blocks.
Oh.
So you just be jumping random places, hoping that there's a block
exactly.
there.
You try and jump off of random things. You're jumping on places that you don't need to do that in order to get to the end of the level. But because you found that one block that one time, because you jumped perfectly in that area, you're like, oh, I bet there's more of those. And because we were all doing that before YouTube and before Twitter and stuff, of course, we had to experiment to try and find where those were.
So there are two things here. One, no matter what game I'm playing, I always say, is there fall damage? And then jump off a cliff.
Yes.
Yep. Carrie makes fun of me because I like fall off cliffs in games lots, like just naturally in MMOs. So I'm like, is there fall damage? And I'll just do it so I get it out of the way so I know for later. But secondly, he made me think about it with Mario 64. How many of you threw the penguin off the edge?
Oh my God. I mean, on accident. I was like, it's my friend. And then I touched the wrong button and it goes flying.
It was
off
an
the
accident.
edge.
I'm sorry. I just need to know who's sociopaths. So Alex raised his hand. Who else did it?
Of course I did.
Dan, Ian on accident.
I probably did once.
I did not do
not
that.
Every time,
I didn't even know
penguins.
that was possible until somebody told me they did it later in life. And I was like, you horrid beast. Anyway, I was just curious. Continue.
Yeah, no, so I think we're all doing this experimentation on like a smaller level, but then sometimes you sort of like, you know, I wonder what would happen if, and you discover that something magical would happen. And this is part of what
First, before you do that, you make an extra save.
Yeah, that's right.
You make an extra save file before you do something stupid.
But this is actually what I love right now about the Breath of the Wild community, and I don't know if anybody else has been following any of this, but Breath of the Wild, huge game, tons of content there. You can play it within the bounds that it is normally meant to be played, and every second of it would be a sublime exploration into the, known universe. But there are players out there who are taking this physics-based system and just completely blowing it out of the water. Like if you look up trick shots and like how much distance you can cover in Breath of the Wild in short periods of time by like arranging stop time explosives and platforms in the right places, it is crazy the things that people can do. And I love this as like taking what's at the core of Breath of the Wild, that is physics-based gameplay, and using it in a way that's not related to the rest of the content in the game, but in a way that is just as interesting and innovative as a way of enjoying the game. So I never came up with it by myself necessarily, but there were things that I was doing in the game that were leading me that direction, trying to whack platforms and hop on top of them and see where it would shoot me. And I love that kind of experimentation too.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of the shrines that I think I did the incorrectly, but still completed. Just because, like there's the way that the developers wanted you to do it, and then there's the way of just kind of like getting it done for whatever reason. And it's kind of fun to be able to figure out. Like, I don't know. It makes me feel really clever when I'm able to do something that I don't think the developers expected.
Right. You don't just outsmart the puzzle. You outsmart the builders.
Yeah. It's like, flip this. That's like you have to get around this thing. It's like, well, what if I just blow it up? And I have all this stuff. I think the rise of actual open world games has kind of made it easier to experiment and stuff. Like true open world, where it's like a bunch of stuff that you can do. Like with GTA Online, I think that's one of the my favorite ones for like random experimentations. In GTA 4, in the online mode, me and my friend Paul one time we're just like, hey, I wonder how many cars we can fit in this one little parking lot. And we just started driving cars there to see how many we could get there before they started to despawn. And then they started to explode. And then it was and then our computers crashed because there were too many cars and too many explosions, and we were playing on very crappy computers.
It's that reminded me of taking in Halo Combat Evolved, taking warthogs where you weren't supposed to take them.
Oh yeah, like just driving, like somehow breaking through the
Austin Powersing your way into those places.
Yeah, and that's also with Halo's like the same thing, because Halo was a game where people were in like Halo Combat Evolved in the multiplayer. People were doing ridiculous stuff, and then they were like, "Oh well, we'll put a level editor in it for you." In like Halo 2 and Halo.
That's where Griffball came from.
And then people just started doing even more crazy, like, okay, now you have to like shoot this target with a scorpion bullet as it bounces off of all these different things. All because whenever we were playing Halo Combat Evolved when we were 13, we were like, how many of us can we get to stand on each other's heads at the same time? And how high can we go? And can we get everybody there, all 8 of us in this lobby?
That was the best version of Battlefield 3 too, was when you could literally go anywhere on a map and you could ride the UAVs? MAVs.
The MAVs, yeah.
And you could just ride them anywhere as a sniper. And you could just get places where you're not supposed to. And they got rid of that, and that kind of, I don't know, it kind of killed some of the fun with that game because it became less of a sandbox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually what I was going to say, is that I feel like a lot of the sandbox games offer the best chance at like going beyond or exploiting a game to try to like break it in a way that's interesting. So like, I'm going to bring up Astroneer because I haven't talked about it in 15 minutes. But,
point for you.
But you can, like, all of the things in Astroneer physically exist at the same time. It's a solar system, right? And you can also build dirt underneath yourself at any time, right? So theoretically, if you were to build dirt underneath yourself for long enough, you could reach another planet simply by building a dirt mound. And it's possible.
Have you done it?
I haven't done it because I don't have that kind of free time in my hand, but I have watched people do this in YouTube videos, and like, this is the kind of thing that fascinates me. Like, okay, this mechanic works this way. If we take it to its logical extreme, what does it then mean? And sometimes this can lead to like that kind of experimentation where you're traveling from planet to planet using a land bridge. It's not actually possible because there's a loading screen in between things that you don't see, that they sort of like bunched in there, but then you know, right?
Thanks for breaking the magic, Ian. Jesus.
Sorry, but it can also lead to like modern warfare, or like Warzone, right? People using the stim over and over. Like there's a stim glitch where you can just sit in the gas and stim yourself.
I think
right
that's
now,
still
forever.
there too.
Yeah, and it's like on one hand, it's like a pretty crappy thing to do in a game about shooting people, to like not shoot or be shot. On the other hand, like, okay, you broke the game. Congrats.
There's a lot of that.
I watched Kyrios actually on his stream break Valorant. And
what happened?
I don't know exactly what he was doing because I don't know how Valorant works, to be honest. So I'd have to confirm with him. Okay. But I think he was in the training map, and he was able to actually jump off the map and not die, which shouldn't be able to happen. So he jumped off the map and exploited one of the character's ult abilities to not die. And then he just existed under the map. I think I have a clip of it I'll share. He just existed under the map and tried to use a flash ability, and it glitched out weird and things like that. And it was just so interesting for me to see that a game like that has that big of a exploit still existing in it. But yeah.
I was going to say, especially for a game like that relies so heavily on being fair and making sure that everything is so tightly engineered. That's really interesting that exploit exists.
I think some of the best opportunities for experimentation though come from simulation games, because you're not experiencing as much with the environment, but perhaps fake people.
Sims
or goats,
say.
Or goats, or meeples,
or meeples,
what have you.
Space, the things that go to space, Kerbals.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally what that game is.
To experiment and trying to get your gerbils into space.
But when we thought about this topic, the thing that kind of immediately popped into my head was Roller Coaster Tycoon Death Parks.
Welcome to Death Park.
There are a couple of ways that you could kill people in that game. And, you know, when I first started playing it as a wee lad, I didn't realize that until one day one of my trains exploded and a bunch of people died. I felt bad. But then I kind of kept learning about it, and, you know, there's a bunch of ways you can do that. And it was always kind of like, I think I did definitely go through a little bit of a phase where I, you know, drowned like 1,000 people. I really just wanted to watch the world.
A little bit of a phase, you know. We all went through a phase. I went through a phase where I drowned like 1,000 people.
I did similar things in like Zoo Tycoon. You could remove the cages around the animals.
Oh yes.
And just like unleash it on the park. So I did that for sure. I did a little of the death coastering. And then in just the regular Sims, I mean, that was just a part of the game, right? Anybody who played The Sims, tell me you did not kill at least one Sim on purpose. Like,
you got to do it just to see how it feels.
It's true. So it's like, am I a masochist or am I not? I have seen people have competitions to see who can get their Sims family to kill themselves the fastest.
Yeah, my favorites were always
that sounds like something we're gonna do on the stream next year.
my favorites were always the pool, because that was easy. But I also got creative and did like a room with a bunch of plants and flammable items and a fireplace and no door. So and then the fireman comes and he runs around the building and he's like, "Oh no,
there's no way to get in.
There's no way to get in," because I always put a fire alarm in there too, just to add a little extra. So
It adds suspense.
So you know, when the fire happened, the fireman auto came, and so they just ran around the building. And then at one point, I'd like put the door in, and then the fireman would come in, and then I'd take the door out. And so, you know, it's just like I would try to break that game as many ways as humanly possible because it was fun for me. But if, like, in the university's expansion, if you killed the parents off, your teenager got an orphan scholarship. So, like, it was really me just trying to make it through the
so
game.
It's kind of financially beneficial for you.
It was. It was. There were lots of benefits.
So that's what I missed in college. That's what I should have done.
Yeah, you should have let all the food in your kitchen spoil.
No, Chris.
That's a no.
Kill my parents, get free college.
There's a video game about that. The Binding of Isaac. I'm sorry, mother.
And like in The Sims, there were also like the cheat exploits, which I did, but I actually broke the game doing one because I was curious. You know, I was like, okay, I can cheat and get money, so I maxed my money out. And, you know, I did it on a game I didn't care about, and nothing bad happened. So I was like, oh, okay. So I did it on a game that I was really enjoying playing, just for the sake of, so I could keep building this amazing house I wanted to just build to the skyscrapers, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I sold an item, and that broke the game because it maxed me over max money.
Oh, right.
So that game I broke and could never go back into that save file, so I just had to reinstall my game. It was pretty upsetting for me, but yeah, that was a bad experiment, if you will. But
yeah, I also okay, so the other thing that I wanted to talk about was like the sense of experimentation and discovery being something that's actually really central to game playing, so much so that like even really early video games, I will say, also sort of mess with this. Like, if you think about a Tamagotchi, I remember having a Tamagotchi and not knowing what the heck to do with it, because there was this balance of like, you had to play with it, but not play with it too much. That applies in other areas of life as well.
Hey, don't listen to him. You can play with it as much as you want.
But like,
they're talking about your computer,
right?
You play with your computer as much as you want.
No, I'm talking about I'm talking about something else.
You had to feed it, but you couldn't feed it too much, right? Like, there was this balance where you were trying to keep it happy, and you kind of had to pay attention to it, but not pay attention to it too much. And I love that discovery is built into that gameplay loop, and I tend to love gameplay loops that include discovery as part of that. And I just it's sad because like with the birth of the internet, you can always go look. And so there's always that tension of like, don't go look, just figure it out. Like, there's something worth it there. But there are also games that are not built that way. Elite Dangerous is not a go figure it out game. It is a Google the shit out of it game.
Well, it could be a go figure it out game. Maybe you're just too dumb.
Maybe I'm just too dumb, Dan. That is possible.
It's not?
It's not. Ian is dumb, but it's not.
Causation, correlation does not equal causation.
We were talking about this beforehand, that like the job of the host is to be dumb. So I feel like I'm doing a good job at this point.
Jabba the host sounds like Jabba the Hutt.
Oh no, Jabba the host. Welcome to my podcast.
I feel like with like Tamagotchis and the Digimon version and the Pokemon version of them and all of those that existed at a time, like that was something that everybody wanted them because they were cool. Like my brothers wanted them and I had one, but once they figured that out, that it had to be a balance and it was an actual like job game,
responsibility,
like Harvest Moon is, or Stardew Valley for Will. Once they figured that out, they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I was always like the Tamagotchi babysitter for my household. So they drop them all off with me, and I had a lanyard of like pets that I just like monitor every once in a while because I enjoyed it. But I don't think anyone else in my family did. Like the Digimon ones, you could link them together in battle, and that's all my brothers wanted to do. So they were like, take care of this shit. And yeah, so wait, I did that. But
Digimon? Digital monsters?
Yeah, there were Digimon. There were Digimon ones.
Digimon are the champion.
They are. It's true.
Digimon, digital monsters.
Wow.
Digimon,
and I think about like, I never have done speedrunning games.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that too.
But I think about the people who spent time thinking about these little like quick hacks in these games and have experimented so long with a single game to get all these like perfect game breaking or quick move mechanics and implement them into speedruns. I find that so fascinating. I love to watch those, but I think about how tedious that is and how much I would just throw myself off the nearest cliff like I do in any MMO if that were me.
One of the ones I thought was interesting at GDC this year was they had a Donkey Kong Country.
Donkey King?
Donkey King, but they had people speedrunning that.
King.
And it's funny because, oh my God, to speed run Donkey Kong Country, you almost never use
Can you say it
Donkey
normally?
Kong. You always use Diddy because he can roll, and anytime he rolls, you don't hit people. So like you don't even have to kill any enemies. You just kind of roll past most of them so that you can get to the end of the game. It's like, and who was the guy that was just sitting there just like, oh, you know what? If I roll, I don't get hit by anything. Oh, and then if I roll and then jump, I can go further and faster. Huh.
Right.
That's nuts to me.
Yeah, and I like these mechanics. There's this thing in Cyberpunk 2077 now where people are speed running the highway loop with like a certain augmentation that allows you to jump, but it like breaks over time or like doesn't have a cap on speed, so you can just infinitely accelerate yourself farther and farther. That's really cool too.
So just yeet yourself into space, basically.
Yeah, so there's a million of these things. So we want to hear about what you have been doing to experiment and break the games you're playing. If you're playing games right now, find a way to break them. We want to hear
break
about
your
it.
games. Hashtag break your games. Tag the game brew and say hashtag break your games.
Share them on our Discord at bit.ly/discobrew. You can tweet them at us at discobrew. You can Instagram them at us at do we have an Instagram?
No, you can't tweet them at us at discobrew. You have to tweet them at us at the game.
Yes, we have an Instagram.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, yeah, that's what you got it. You know what I'm talking about. At the Game Brew, though.
That's how social media works.
You know.
IPA.
Just Google the Game Brew social media. It'll come up.
That probably would work. In any case, hit us up at the Game Brew with your game-breaking stuff. We want to see it. That's going to be it for us tonight. Say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, here we go. We're going to stop on stop and hop on pop. Here we go. And 3, 2, 1.
Listen, just because I'm masculine doesn't mean I don't like to be called pretty. Ian, call me pretty.
You're pretty, Dan.
Thank you.
You're beautiful, Dan.
Thank you so much.